Guys, we did a poll during the break and throughout the show, and I wanted to let you know what it was. It's what is the most responsible for the decreased violence in Iraq? And we got some interesting answers. You know, was it the surge of U.S. troops? 10% say yes. I'm surprised it's that high, actually. Ethnic cleansing caused some of the violence to go down because there was so much ethnic cleansing. That's 13%. The Sunni awakening, 27% said that was mainly responsible. And the Mahdi army ceasefire got 50% of the vote, which I think, you know, you look at that and you go, thank God for a smart audience. Because I think that those numbers are pretty right. I would apportion it just about the same way. Now I want to ask the bloggers, though. Guys, what do you think was mainly responsible? Let me start with Matt. Do you think it was the Mahdi army ceasefire mainly and the Sunni awakening? And did we talk about that in the responsible plan? Or was it something else?
The responsible plan. I don't know why violence went down. I'm not an expert in Iraq. I'm not going to pretend that I know. It seems like a lot of factors, you know, there was a confluence of factors. Anbar Awakening seems like it had a lot to do with it. You know, all the pieces that you mentioned. But I don't know.
Mm-hmm. Joan, you know, I want to focus on preventing the next war as well, because nothing could be more important than that. So the responsible plan talks about checks and balances in the government. How does that relate?
It relates by having a responsible Congress that's not going to let the executive have this kind of authority again. And of course having a media that's responsible as well. Hopefully it'll also encourage citizens to be a little bit more involved. Maybe if there had been an active blogosphere in 1999 and 2000, we could have avoided this.
Joan, also the National Defense Strategy was released recently by Robert Gates, of course, Secretary of Defense, and it pretty much reads as if John Kerry wrote it, saying that we have to reduce terrorism to a nuisance, that we have to be sensitive in how we deal with these issues, and most importantly saying this isn't about military solutions, that fighting terrorism is about basically crime and crime prevention. So is the Bush government saying, hey, our bad, John Kerry was right?
You're never going to hear the Bush government saying that John Kerry was right. I'm glad to see Robert Gates recognizing that non-state terrorism isn't the kind of sort of Cold War mentality battle that you can fight, that it does have to be more nuanced, that it does have to be a more law enforcement-based effort. Perhaps that's why he's now saying that we need $20 billion to go in and build up the Afghanistan forces. Also recognizing that we don't have the ability here in the United States with our military to move into Afghanistan and do the job to fight Al-Qaeda there.
So, Matt, I wanted to ask you, do you think with this new revelation that October 2010 we might be out, do you think we're close to ending this war? And did the Democrats have anything to do with it?
I don't know. I mean, you know, even Obama is saying, well, I want to keep a residual force in Iraq to assist with counterterrorism. And so, you know, during the primary, I remember all the Democrats saying, well, when I end the war, after we end the war, our troops in Iraq are going to do X, Y, Z, D. And it was sort of crazy talk, because if you have troops in Iraq, it seems like there's a war going on there, so that you're involved in a war. As for whether we're going to end this, you know, I think a lot of it depends on how much the public sort of rises up and how much organizing happens to force us out of Iraq. Because the question is not whether we're going to remove troops. The question is whether we're going to remove all troops. And if we don't remove all troops, we're still involved in the war in Iraq. We're just picking a side in the civil war.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, especially because the army right now might be controlled by a different Shiite militia than the Mahdi army. So why did we pick that militia to back? No one really quite knows. And the Mahdi army does have a ceasefire. And by the way, today they reinforced that ceasefire. So that's at least being helpful. So finally, I want to ask all of you guys, do you think it's going to make a difference who wins, whether between McCain and Obama? Is there going to be a real difference in how we end this war or whether we end this war? Let me start with David. Do you think Obama, McCain, it makes a difference on whether we'll withdraw our troops more responsibly or faster?
Well, I think Obama has been relatively consistent on this issue, and he's talked about wanting to get the troops out, and whether it's a 16-month period or a 20-month period, he's talking about a timetable, and he's talking about ending this war, whereas John McCain has been all over the place. It depends on the audience he's talking to. Sometimes it's 2 years, sometimes it's maybe now, sometimes it's 100 years from now. So you listen to the two talk on this over and over again, you listen to their rhetoric, and I'm pretty damn confident that Obama is talking the talk right now, and McCain, he's talking, well, he's straight talk. I guess I shouldn't doubt him.
There you go. You've been listening to the media. Matt, what's your thoughts here? Are we going to have a substantive difference between Obama and McCain here?
I don't know. I mean, I know it's popular to say Obama will end the war and McCain won't, but I'm honestly not sure that Obama will end the war or that McCain won't. I think McCain is just a dishonest, pandering politician, so it's impossible to know what he's going to do. He might just cave to political pressure because that's just sort of what he does. And I'm not sure that Obama wants to end the war. He is talking about residual troops in the country. So it's not obvious to me. I mean, I think the big defining question is how progressive will this Congress be? How many problems is this Congress going to cause for people for the president who wants to keep troops in Iraq? That's really the question. That's why the responsible plan is so important.
Matt, that's a really good point. We should probably do another show on whether the next Congress is actually going to be progressive. But Joan, let me give you the last word on the Iraq pullout. Are you pessimistic or optimistic about whether Obama or McCain might make a difference here in pulling out?
I agree absolutely with Matt that it's going to depend on how progressive our Congress is. And I would say that we're going to have a much better luck with a progressive Congress with a Democratic president. Also, I think with a President Obama, we'd have a better opportunity to re-engage the international community, which absolutely has to be done when you're talking about an Iraq pullout. And I think that we're marginally more likely to get out by 2010 with Obama than we are with McCain.
Yeah, I think Joan nails it. I think that's exactly right. You know, people mention the diplomacy, and it's a huge part of the responsible plan to end the war in Iraq, but it shouldn't be glossed over. It's real. That's what actually gets things done, whether it's ceasefires in Iraq or whether it's the new deals we're going to make in Afghanistan or hopefully Iran. And it appears from the National Defense Strategy, Robert Gates has begun to understand that a little bit. Certainly John Kerry did, and now the responsible plan to end the war in Iraq certainly does. Listen, I want to thank you guys so much for being part of Meet the Bloggers this week. We really appreciate it. And I want to remind everybody at home, you could continue to read Matt, Joan, and David's blogs about this at their websites, horsesass.org for David, dailycoast.com for Joan, and openleft.com for Matt. And I'm going to write something about the irony of the surge on theyoungturks.com as well in the upcoming week, and we'll have a link up to it at meetthebloggers.org. And I also want to remind you guys that donors are what keep this show going. We don't want to be beholden to corporate advertisers, and the more you can donate to us, the more shows we'll have and the better quality. And we really appreciate your participation through the polls, the questions, and the donations as well. And I want to remind you, finally, on meetthebloggers.org, throughout the week, you can send us your questions and your suggestions for who should be our next guest and what we should ask them. So don't forget that. And until then, we're going to see you at 1 p.m. Eastern on next Friday, also 10 a.m. Pacific. So we'll see you then. Until then, do something.